How many pitchers this season will throw over 200 innings? How do you evaluate players returning from injury like Chris Sale? We'll take a look at ATC undervalued starting pitchers with Paul Sporer next on Beat the Shift. Welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast. I am your host, Ariel Cohen, and with me as always is Ruvain Guy. How are you, Ruvain?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Do you own any shares of GameStop by any chance?
No, but I own a lot of games from GameStop, and they only will give me like $2 for them now, so I don't understand what happened there.
Oh, goodness. Our buddy Uncle Steve Cohen in the news again, but hopefully he'll focus more attention on making the Mets better. You never know. We've got a great guest tonight. He is the editor of Rotographs. Welcome to the show, Paul Sporer. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on.
What's doing with you? How's the offseason going? Getting into the midst of deep fantasy prep?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, it's been nonstop this year. Never really took a break. And so, as everyone else kind of comes back into the fray, as maybe their football team gets eliminated, things like that, I am here. I'm the welcoming committee. I'm welcoming everybody with open arms. I cannot wait. Usually for me, Super Bowl is the last snap of the Super Bowl is the opening day of baseball, because everyone comes back over that loves both sports. We finally get the whole group back, and we really start to get into the prep season.
There you go. And do you think that we're going to start the MLB season on time, or will there be some labor disputes and COVID issues? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't really think it starts in March. April seems probably the best bet, maybe mid to late. It really just depends, right? Because they want to have a regular a return to normal as far as the season goes. I don't know how viable that is, but we'll see. Once we kind of get started in February, we're going to kind of figure it out as we go along, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll have as full season as we can. So, in our strategy section tonight, we're going to talk all about this episode, about the starting pitcher player pool. This is our part one of our starting pitchers. And the first question, I think it's pretty important. How many 200 innings pitchers is there going to be this year? Obviously, we didn't have anybody pitch more than 80 or so innings within the 60-game season. But is anybody going to even be able to throw 200? What's your take on this, Paul?
I mean, if we get 162, yes, I think there will be 200-inning throwers, even coming off the shortened season. And when we see guys come back from injury after missing a bunch of time and they get back to their 190 to 200. So I think we'll see some. It won't be very many, though. Last time, 2019, we had 15. I would not go that high. I'd probably go in the 5 to 7 range. And if I was sticking with 5, it's really kind of, for the top 5 guys, DeGrom, Cole, Bieber, Bauer. But then I like Sandy Alcantara to get there too. I think they're gonna let him get back up near where he was there in 2019. I know some teams are talking about different things, but I'm kind of looking more at the numbers that the guys have had. 2019, 197 in the third innings for Alcantara. He can handle a full workload. So I think they let the 25-year-old push his way up there again this year.
Oh, interesting to say that. I'll throw in Lance Lynn in there.
That's a good one too, for sure.
Yeah, he led the league, the all of majors in innings pitched this past year. Ruvain, what are your thoughts? And more importantly, how does it come that pitchers obviously only pitch 70, 80 innings at the most here? Can they ramp up and go all the way and hit 180, 200 innings? Is that something that players are prepared to do? Are teams going to stop them?
I think it's possible that they can. I mean, if someone has never pitched over 175 innings, I can't see an organization pushing them because they don't want these pitchers to get hurt. And a lot of pitchers did get hurt, even in the shortened season. And if you try to push them too much, I mean, Paul mentioned that only 15 pitchers pitched for over 200 innings in 2019. Only 40 pitchers pitched over 175, and only 78 in entire major leagues pitched over 150. So the fact that that those numbers are so low, and the philosophy of the teams are the younger pitchers are usually the ones that are better, and they usually have innings limits, supposedly innings limits. But I think it really depends on philosophy. We had Randy Dobnak on, and he said it's really based on philosophy. He said he's going to try to push it as much as he can, but I mean, if they have a shortened season, if they play, let's say, 140 games instead of 162, yes, there will be some players who are on pace to do it, but it's not like it was. I think the age of the 200-inning pitcher is over.
Interesting. Nick asks mailbag questions, and he's asking by organization. Do you think that there are organizations who you trust more or less to allow their starting pitchers to get close to 200 innings? For example, he thinks that Milwaukee has already said they will only allow 100 more innings to whatever you pitched in 2020. Do you think it's an organizational thing, Paul?
Yeah, I definitely do. And there are teams talking about 6-man rotations. Of course, those break down pretty quickly, like once you have injuries and whatnot. So I think they'll be more diligent about it this year. It's not like coming off a full season and saying that you're going to do a 6-man. It's very extenuating circumstances. So I do think we'll see some teams really try to stick with it. But by and large, it is going to be organizational. I think a team like the Nats, with the pitchers they have, would be inclined to maybe push Scherzer to go pretty far. Maybe Corbin can get back there. I don't know about Strasburg because he is coming off the carpal tunnel, and health has been a career-long issue with him. I could see them definitely doing it. Cleveland seems to know how to maximize their starters. Now they have jettisoned some of their veteran guys recently. In fact, I think Plesac is the old man on the rotation now, even older than Bieber. But Bieber himself, I think, is one of those guys who can get to 200. And I could see maybe like a Plesac or Savali being trusted to go that far because they believe in their pitching development and what they're doing there. But, I wouldn't put a lot of bets on these 200-inning thresholds, especially because I just don't know that we're going to get 162. And without that, then I really don't think we see any 200.
Oh, right. Assuming we do get a full season. I put this question to Twitter, and 77% responded under 4 or under, with the number of pitchers throwing 200-plus innings. That's quite not a lot. Pretty incredible. Yeah.
But it's also the philosophy now. We have openers, and pitchers in general pitch less innings to start. If the starter will go 5, maybe 6 innings, so just that by itself will limit the amount of innings a pitcher will pitch.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of it's not just the COVID, it's not just the ramp up, it's the philosophy of the movement of baseball and where it's trending as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, big question in terms of starting pitchers is the players returning from injury. I'm talking about guys like Chris Sale, Noah Syndergaard, Luis Severino. Not really a COVID issue or short season. They were just out with Tommy John surgery or other issues. How do you project innings for them? How do you determine from the start of the season what you're putting into your draft and what you're assuming, what Sale, what Syndergaard, Severino's doing? But Paul, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I already have a pretty strong do not take guys in their first year back from TJ rule that I kind of live by anyway, just because of the uncertainty of the season. And these guys will be no different. I just don't really see the draft day discount. Severino probably is ahead of the two by about a month. Sale and Thor had their TJ in late March, late February for Severino, so I could see him, getting a few more innings there. But I mean, what are you really going to get, right? With these guys that come back from TJ, the command and control is the last thing to return. These are all hard throwers who could be wild, inconsistent. Only one of them's on a mediocre to bad team, which is Sale in Boston. So they might play games a little bit more with limiting him. Whereas, the Mets and Yankees are relying on Thor and Severino respectively, which may help their innings counts, but could also hurt them if they're pushed too far. So it's a balancing act that I just don't want to deal with. And that's why I just don't mess with TJ guys in their first year back. They're usually not very valuable at all. So why even mess with it? But I'd keep them all in like the, 80 to 100 inning range at the max. That's returning in what? Probably May, I think would be the earliest. I think these teams aren't going to go too crazy rushing them. So yeah, I think they're an easy pass though with Sale, Thor, and Severino.
Ruvain, we're going to do the injury report for tonight in this segment. So what are your injury updates for the trio?
Okay, well, first of all, for Severino, it's been stated that his rehab is going well. He did have Tommy John, like Paul mentioned, in February of last year. He was throwing off a flat ground and from 90 feet in October. His estimated return, according to everyone who's talking, is June or July. That's what they're saying right now. Chris
Okay.
Sale, he's on pace to throw off a mound later this month, and he has been throwing. But he hasn't reached that step yet. And actually today it was reported that he did already have a setback. He had neck stiffness. He's gone past that, but he just started resuming throwing. But that setback, this is going to happen all the time with Tommy John recoveries. Everyone recovers from it differently. Everyone pushes themselves differently. And Noah Syndergaard, he's on. Again, this is according to the manager and everything like that. He is on schedule, or maybe a little bit ahead of schedule from his rehab. I mean, what does that mean? Does that mean he's going to come back in May? Does it mean he's coming back in June,
yeah.
July? It could mean an All-Star break, and they may want to wait and bring him back then. The biggest news out of Syndergaard now is that he just started a book club. I mean, that's the biggest news of Syndergaard, and that's probably the biggest news you're going to get out of him for the next couple of months. And go ahead.
Pardon me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just saying, if you're saying Sevy is June, July, again, Sale and Thor had it a month later.
Correct.
So you got to really factor in that you're not getting much.
Correct. And also there are a couple other players who had Tommy John and were coming back for Tommy John, but then COVID happened. I'm talking about Jordan Hicks. I'm talking about Michael Kopech. These guys were coming off of Tommy John. They were supposed to be back last year, but they opted out. What are you going to get out of them? Do you invest in them? I mean, they are farther out from Tommy John surgery, but they're farther out also from actually facing hitters. And it's a very, very tough decision to do with them.
That is tough. I would be inclined to be interested in either, though, because their price is so much cheaper, right? The three studs that we're talking about, people are starting to creep them up already. We haven't even gotten to February yet, and those guys are starting to get inklings that I don't think they deserve. With Hicks and Kopech, they're pretty far down the list, so I'm inclined to take a little bit of a gamble on them, even if I am only getting 80 to 100 innings.
So, according to ATC projections, Chris Sale for 88 innings, Noah Syndergaard for 93, Luis Severino 83 innings. ATC is far lower than most of the other projections around. The projections on Fangraphs have people in the hundreds, which to me is a little ridiculous. And look at Chris Sale's projection. I mean, Steamer's got 3.38 ERA with 112 innings. I'm sorry, but I don't buy that. At that, he is a $21 pitcher. I mean, it's kind of crazy. The thing is that, if you look at the projections, and even ATC, who is much far lower on these than Steamer or some of the other ones.
Still pretty high.
Still pretty high.
Pretty great. Yeah, 374, 111. How much do these systems, obviously ATC, but to the rest of the systems, when they see a missed year, how much can it be factored in of Tommy John? And is there anything done in the calculations with regards to how Tommy John returners are? Or is it really just pulling off of their previous data, which in Chris Sale's case, and all three of the cases of those guys, is pretty darn elite, meaning the projection, even if it's muted a little bit, would still look pretty sharp.
Right. I don't think that they're doing a good job of it. And I would say that I do not trust projections in the case of these year after Tommy John surgery people. Yeah, I mean, Sale is not going to bounce back and immediately throw 3.3 ERA. He's not.
I don't think so either. And a sub 115 whip, I know he's a whip god because he's difficult to hit and he doesn't walk guys. But Sale, I just don't know that he's going to come back to that so quickly. And again, with Boston, they're garbage. I mean, relative to that division, they might win 80 games and be 500, but they're not really a competitor in that division. I don't know that they're pushing him to get those extra 20 innings and make it, 104 innings or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, I think they're just a pass. It's just a headache you don't need.
As an example, also Dinelson Lamet, we're going to talk about him later, but he had Tommy John surgery. He's gone up from his delivery, his fastball has gone up 1 mile per hour every year for the past 3 years, which means that even when these guys come back, they're not going to be throwing the same velocity. And what was Syndergaard known for? He was known for his velocity. What was Severino known for? He was known for his velocity. Velocity and control are the two last things that come back.
It's great call out there. So yeah, I think we're all in agreement that the three of us aren't really drafting those guys. So if you love them, get in drafts with us and you can have them.
Yeah. I mean, ATC is projecting an $11 value in an NFBC format for Chris Sale. I just don't buy that. And it's one of the places where, in my own personal rankings, I will be very far off from that projection. But here's the thing. It also matters what format you're in.
True.
If you have an IL slot, I wouldn't mind taking, like if I offered you Paul, I said, you know what, I